Hello people, this is my third video on my page Parchment Blues. I'm very thankful to you that my page has already reached a lot of views and it has got 185 subscribers in the last 1 week, which means that these videos are actually reaching the right audience. I just hope that you people are benefited from these videos, and I will come straight to the point because we have already. I think most of you have your classes must have started. Ninth standard your classes must have started the new session, and today's class will be for this video. This video will be for class 9, Julius Caesar, Act 1, Scene 1. Now, one more thing before I forget is that I cannot see any messages on my page. I don't know whether it is a technical glitch on my side or you are not posting any messages, because unless until you do so, I will not be able to understand whether these videos are beneficial for you or whether I have to improve them or there are something other than this that you people need. So if it is a technical glitch on my side, then please drop a mail on my mail ID, that is mumroymukerjee at 4 that is in numerics @gmail.com. Mam Mukherjee Roy is my name and this is my mail ID. So just drop a mail so that I can understand whether this is a technical glitch or not, and if not, please message something, anything at all, so that I can understand that it is actually working. Okay, so we'll come straight to the point. We'll start with the class. In my previous videos, if you haven't watched it, then just go to my page and watch it. In my previous video, which is an introduction to Shakespeare, I had told you that Shakespearean plays can be subdivided into 4 parts, that are tragedies, comedies, period drama, and romance. Now, Julius Caesar falls under 2 subdivisions. First, it is a tragedy, and second, it is a period drama. Because Julius Caesar is about a person who actually existed in Rome in he was and the story revolves around his life, although he is not present in the drama for a very long time, but he is the protagonist who around whom the story, actually the drama, rotates. So now, first of all, in order to understand Julius Caesar as a person, Julius Caesar as a person, as a noun form, to understand Julius Caesar, you have to understand the Roman historical and political background of that time, and only then you will be able to understand how Julius Caesar affected the lives of the people in Rome at that time. Whether he was a good man, whether he was a bad man, whether he was a white character, a black character, a grey character, or he was loved by the people, why the rest of the drama takes place after he was assassinated. You only then you will be clear about it. So now about Rome, let me tell you that Rome in the 6th century BC was ruled by King Tarquin. His name was King Tarquin. He was a very cruel ruler. He was a very cruel ruler. He was not a very, people's person. He was a cruel ruler. And there is one thing I think you people have heard, that democracies always strive from cruel monarchies. When there are a lot of cruel kings, common people, they arise and they form democracies. Most of the large democracies in the world have been formed likewise. So here also Tarquin was a very cruel ruler against whom people had revolted. Now who rebelled against him? Early in the 5th century BC, there were 3 men: Pompey, 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 Crassus, and Julius Caesar. These were the 3 people who formed a triumvirate. A triumvirate, Triumvirate. A triumvirate is when 3 people form something or 3 people rule a place together. So it was a triumvirate at that time because they had revolted against the cruel kings of Rome, and Julius Caesar was one of them. The rest 2 were whom? Pompey and Crassus. Please guys, you have to understand and remember these things if you want to form real good answers in your papers, which will attract the attention of the examiner, of the person who is going to check the papers. You have to use all these historical references. Okay. They were in 53 BC. Crassus was killed while he was fighting the Parthians. He was killed. Crassus, one of the three people, were killed, and then a civil war broke out. Now there was a battle at Pharsalia. There was a battle at Pharsalia where Caesar defeated Pompey, because there was some problem with within them also. These three people inside the triumvirate. It is actually not a problem. It is a you would say a hunger for power and hunger for authority. So there was a war, and at the Battle of Pharsalia, Caesar defeated Pompey, and then he also defeated two of Pompey's sons. So now, when Act 1, Scene 1 of Julius Caesar begins, this is when Caesar is returning to Rome from Parthenia after defeating the sons of Pompey. Now, in Rome, there is a group of people who were supporting Pompey. There is a group of people who were supporting Caesar. So, the people who were supporting Caesar are rejoicing because Caesar is victorious and he's coming back to his homeland. But the people who were supporting Pompey, they are angry with him. Okay, they are offended with him. So we have a clash of ideas between two groups, and this scene is actually reflecting the condition of that contemporary Rome of that time. Again, please remember one thing, this is a drama. Nobody is there to explain all these things before the drama is beginning. So the first scene, the introduction to the drama, is always introduction to the contemporary time the drama was set in. So now I have told you what is happening then. So we'll go straight to the text. Now, in your textbooks, I hope you have your textbooks with you right now. In your textbooks, you will find a page that says Dramatis Personae. Dramatist Personae, which means the characters of the play. Okay, so here we have some characters. The main is obviously Julius Caesar, who is also the title of the titular character of the play, and also he is the protagonist around whom the play will revolve. Again, I am telling you, Julius Caesar himself personally is not present in the play for a very long time. This is a very rare instance where a drama is about a person who is not present in the drama for a long time, but his friends or foes, his friends and enemies are there, who are fighting over his death in the whole drama. Okay. Then we have Octavius Caesar, Mark Antony, and Aemilius Lepidus. These are the triumvirs after the death of Julius Caesar. After the death of Julius Caesar, who will look after Rome? So we have Octavius Caesar, we have Mark Antony, and we have Aemilius Lepidus. Now, Mark Antony is one of the most loyal friends of Julius Caesar. Then we have some senators, Cicero, Publius, and Popilius Lena. What are senators? Previously in Europe, we had senates, that like parliaments in our country. We had senates who used to make laws. They used to look after the running of the nation, of the government. So those are senators, and the parliament or the place is called a senate. We still have that in US. So then we have Marcus Brutus, Cassius, Casca, Trebonius, Ligarius, Decius Brutus, Metellus Cimber, and Cinna. These are the conspirators against Julius Caesar. Okay, the main is Marcus Brutus, who himself was a friend of Caesar. Every Shakespearean drama has a tagline. Like in Hamlet, we say "to be or not to be." That is the most famous tagline of Hamlet. In Julius Caesar, we have "Et tu, Brute." "Et tu, Brute" is "you too, Brutus." That is, those were the last words spoken by Julius Caesar in the play. "Et tu, Brute." That is, "Et tu, you too, Brutus." So Brutus was a very dear friend of Caesar, and when Caesar was stabbed, he was stabbed by these conspirators, and Brutus was one of them. And when he turns around and he sees, he was stabbed from the back. So when he turns around and he sees Brutus, his very dear friend, stabbing him, he says, "You too, Brutus." That is, you too have conspirated against me. So this is again a very it is a metaphor. Brutus, the word Brutus is also a metaphor that is used for unfaithful or disloyal friends. That is, he's the Brutus of the group. People say, you have heard about that. He's the Brutus of the group. So Brutus was the main conspirator. How he becomes a conspirator and what happens after that, we'll come later. We'll know everything. Once we have started the drama and we continue with everything, we'll do everything. We'll do the plots. I'll talk about the themes of the drama. Everything will be covered. Then we have Flavius and Mariulus, who are tribunes, and we have Artemiros, a schoolmaster, and Cinna, a poet. These are the characters of the play, the main characters, some of the characters. Then we have Lucius, Titinius, Messala, young Cato, and Volumnus, who are friends of Brutus and Cassius. Friends of Brutus and Cassius. Then we have servants or officers who are attending to Brutus. There are some names there. Then we have Calpurnia, who is Caesar's wife, and we have Portia, who is Brutus's wife. Then we have a soothsayer. A soothsayer is kind of a priest. Okay. Then we have another poet, and we have some more senators. We have citizens, attendants, and soldiers, which are very important, which are extra characters in the play, but they are equally important because these are the characters that actually fill up the place, and actually their dialogues are mostly very they are explanatory. The dialogues are very explanatory to the situations of that time. So now we start with Act 1, Scene 1. So all Shakespeare's opening scenes, they are masterpieces. I've talked about that previously. Why they are masterpieces, or why they have to be masterpieces? Because they are the introduction to the political or to the social scenario of that place where the play is being where the play is the location of the play is like it is, and the characters of Shakespearean plays, the locations are also characters. Okay, the plot is also a character because it speaks a lot about the times, those times. So this scene shows the popularity of Caesar and the jealousy of the tribunes. How popular Caesar was among the Romans, and how jealous the tribunes, or how jealous the people who were against Caesar were because of this popularity. So a fickle mob plays a major role in the play. A fickle mob, just now I told you that these very small characters like the servants or the mobs, they are very important in all the plays of Shakespeare, especially in Julius Caesar, because this is a social drama, a political drama, and the people they are talking about democracy here. So the mob or the people are very important here, and here in this play the mob actually plays a very important role. So now Caesar is coming back in this in not in this scene, later in the scene. In the background it is that Caesar is coming to Rome after defeating the sons of Pompey, and the streets are very beautifully decorated in order to welcome him and the army, his men. So the scene 1, Rome, a street. Enter Flavius, Mariulus, and certain citizens. So these people are entering now. If you see Flavius, Mariulus are who? Who are they? They are among the conspirators, or they are among the People who are against Julius Caesar. Now Flavius is saying, hence home, you idle creatures, get you home. Who is he speaking to? He is speaking to the other citizens who are roaming around on the streets of Rome. Hence means why? Get away from here. Go away from here. Why are you standing here idly? You are idle creatures, get you home. That is, he is shooing them away. He doesn't want people to be on the roads in order to welcome his friend, in order to, not his friend, in order to welcome Shakespeare. Yes, sorry, I'm sorry. In order to welcome Julius Caesar. So he is just shooing away people who are there to support him. Is this a holiday? That you people are such idle creatures? Do you think this is a holiday? What? Know you not? Being mechanical, you ought not walk upon a laboring day without the sign of your profession. So, do you think this is a holiday? This is a off day. What are you people doing here? Why are you not in your workplace? Why are you not working? Do you not know that being mechanical, the being mechanical here means people who work, manual workers, people like farmers and woodsmiths, and we have blacksmiths, we have cobblers, we have other people who are manual workers who do manual work. So he's saying, don't you know that today is a working day and you should be at your place of work. You ought not walk upon a laboring day without a sign. Here, the word walk, W-A-L-K, is used. The pronunciation might be same, but it has a double meaning. W-A-L-K, walk, is walking, and the same thing, W-O-R-K, work, is working. So here Shakespeare is playing with this word. He means walk, W-A-L-K, and W-O-R-K together. Okay. So you ought not walk. Here he is saying you do not, why are you walking idly on the roads? And here he is also meaning, why are you not walking, W-O-R-K-I-N-G, uh, upon a laboring day without the sign of your profession. That is, why don't you have any sign of your profession on you right now? In those days, if you are a farmer, you will have a sickle in your hand. If you are a physician, you will have something else. If you have a cobbler, you will have a hammer, the hammer the cobbler uses with you, so that people can understand what profession you are engaged with. Speak, what trade art thou? Because you are not carrying anything, I cannot understand. What trade art thou? What trade art thou? What work you do? If you were carrying something, because they are not here for work. So these citizens, they are not carrying any of their professional belongings with them, because they are here to celebrate. They are here to welcome Caesar. They are in a very good mood. They are not here. They are actually here as a holiday. They want to welcome Caesar, and because Caesar is one of them who is victorious, and they are wanting Caesar to be even more, to be one of their rulers. So they are here to celebrate the victory and Caesar. The first citizen says, why sir, a carpenter? That is, why are you asking, sir? I am a carpenter. Marullus, where is thy leather and thy rule? That is, where is thy leather? The carpenter is supposed to be, he has to have a bag. Here leather means a bag. Leather apron, that is means a bag or a thing they wear, the apron they wear when they work. And thy rule here means the scale, S-C-L-E, scale. Ruler, which you say, the scale, which with they measure what they make. So what dost thou with thy best apparel on? Now why are you wearing these good clothes? Aren't you going to work today? Why are you not wearing your work clothes? You, sir, what trade art thou? Then he is asking the other person. You, sir, what do you do? The second citizen says, truly, sir, in respect of a fine workman, I am but, as you would say, a cobbler. So then he says, truly, sir, in respect of a fine workman. That is, fine workman here says that I am among the people who do better professions. Better professions. Now, here he is saying this because he is actually very agitated with the way Marullus is asking them or inquiring about their work. He actually wants to be there peacefully in order to welcome Caesar, and when these people are disturbing him, he will use some puns. You know what puns are? P-U-N-S, puns. Puns are when you use a word in two different manners. One word which will have two different meanings. So he's saying, I am but, as you would say, a cobbler. That is, I am a cobbler. Here, cobbler is a pun. Why? Because a cobbler, he's a mender of shoes. Mender of shoes, who mends shoes, and also a bungler. A bungler means what? One who speaks rubbish. Okay? A bungler. But what trade art thou? Answer me directly. The second citizen is saying, a trade, sir, that I hope I may use with a safe conscience, which is indeed, sir, a mender of bad souls. So a trade, sir, here trade means a profession, sir, that I hope I may use with a safe conscience. That is, I always work with a clean conscience. I have a clean conscience and my profession demands it. How? Because I am a mender of bad souls. I mend or I repair bad souls. Here souls, S-O-L-E, is again a pun. Why? Because it means soles of shoes, because he's a cobbler, he means shoes, soles of shoes, and S-O-U-L-S, souls means who mends souls, who, because he's very angry with these people, no? They are saying that I mend souls also, the human souls, S-O-U-L-S, souls. Then Marulus says, what trade, thou knave, thou naughty knave, what trade? Now Marulus is getting a bit irritated. He's saying, just tell me clearly what you do. What trade, thou knave, thou naughty knave? Knave means a rogue. A rogue. A rogue means a person who doesn't listen to orders. Huh? So a disorderly person. And a naughty also, because naughty in the sense, he doesn't mean like naughty children. He means naughty means good for nothing. Second citizen, nay, I beseech you, sir, be not out with me. Yet, if you be out, sir, I can mend you. Now, he's giving dhamki. He's saying, nay, I beseech you, sir. I beseech you means I request you. This is a very soft kind of a dhamki. He's saying, I beseech you, sir, be not out with me. Be not out here means do not be angry with me. Out here means angry. Do not be angry with me. Yet if you be out, sir, that is, even if you are angry, if you do not listen to me, and if you show me anger, I can mend you. That is, I can repair you. That I'll thrash you out. Marulus, what meanest thou by that? Mend me, thou saucy fellow. Now he's saying, what do you mean by that? You want to mend me? What do you mean by that? You want to beat me up? You want to thrash me? Thou saucy fellow. Saucy means someone who is not respectful, who is speaking in a very rude manner. Senior citizen, a second citizen. Why, sir? Cobble you? Here, cobble you means, again, thrash him, because when you cobble something, you do it like this. Cobbling means when you make shoes, or you just do it like this. You cobble it with, there is a small hammer. If you have seen cobblers, they make shoes like they hammer it, and that is like thrashing. So he say, I'll thrash you, but he is using a very different kind of a word. He's saying, I'll cobble you. Thou art a cobbler, art thou? Now again Flavius is asking him, so you are a cobbler. Second citizen, truly, sir, all that I live by is with the all. I meddle with no tradesmen's matters, nor women's matters, but withal I am indeed, sir, a surgeon to old shoes. So now again, see this second citizen, he's a very cunning fellow. He's using so many puns, because he knows that these people are very close to the senators, so he cannot offend them. They cannot offend them directly. So he is using words that will actually have two meanings, so that they are safe. So he's saying, truly, sir, all that I live by is with the all. Here again the word all, two different spellings. One is A-L-L and one is A-W-L. These are used in two different words. This all, A-double-L, is everything. Like we say, all I live with is everything I live with. Our A-W-L is a tool for making holes in leather. You have a tool that, it's like a screwdriver kind of a thing. There is a metal rod, a very pointed metal rod, and there is one handle, and you make holes with that on leather. So it is again a pun. So how many puns we have already come across? See, it's only a few moments of Shakespeare and we already have come across so many puns. I hope your schools have taught you the puns and metaphors and similes and oxymorons, hyperboles. You know all these things, I hope, because in 8th standard ICSE board actually has all these things in their syllabus, so that in the 9th standard when you are introduced to Shakespeare, you can understand these play of words, these parts of speeches. So I hope you people know what they are, right? If not, then I have to make another video on it. Please message me and or mail me so that I can do that. At least you have to know some. You have to know personification, you have to know hyperbole, you have to know puns, you have to know irony, metaphor, alliteration, and at least these you have to know. 6 or 7 parts of speech you have to know. So just message or mail me if you need a class on this. I don't know how I'll finish all the syllabus with if all these are not clear with you people, but you need a very clarified idea of parts of speeches, because parts of speeches actually are a very integral part of ICSE question papers. They will ask you what is the part of speech used here. If it is an alliteration, you have to answer that and you have to say how it is an alliteration. If it is an irony or a pun or a metaphor, you have to use it. See, we have already come across so many puns, huh? And in poetry especially, you'll have a lot of alliterations. So I meddle with no tradesman matters. That is, I never meddle with the political scenario of the country, tradesman matters, or of the about the political scenario, nor women's matters. I do not even I have interest in any women matters. That I suppose were the most interesting things matters of that time, or of this time also, men talking about women. But he says that I am not interested about women matters also. But withal I am indeed, sir, a surgeon to old shoes. But what I am is a surgeon to old shoes. Here surgeon word is, you know who surgeons are, who operate on your patients, and if something is wrong with their physiology, they correct it by surgery. Only then they are surgeons. That way they are different than normal physicians. How they do surgery? They cut open you. So here he's saying he's a surgeon to old shoes. When they are in great danger, they hear the shoes. When these shoes are in great danger, I recover them, as if the shoes are who? They are people. See, personification. Here the shoes are personified. He is saying, as and in great danger I recover them. Here them are shoes, and he recovers old shoes who are in danger, just like surgeons recover patients or human beings who are in danger. As proper men as ever trod upon neat's leather have gone upon my handiwork. So he says, I recovered as proper men as ever trod. As proper men trod here is walked, as ever walked, as proper or gentlemen that have walked upon neat leather. Neat's leather means good shoes. Here neat means cowhide. Shoes were made with cowhide, at that time, or even now. The best of the shoes, they are made of good quality ox leather, or they are made with good quality crocodile leather. You'll hear all these things. Brand A lot of humanitarians or a lot of people from the PETA, they are actually doing a lot of things against these. That why will people wear shoes made of some other animals' hides? But the times we were talking about, leather was cow hide. So neat's leather have gone upon my handiwork. That is, there are so many gentlemen who are wearing beautiful shoes that I have made from cow leather. That is what the last two lines mean. Now Flavius says, but wherefore art not in thy shop today? Why dost thou lead these men about the streets? But then Flavius is saying, why are you not in your shop today then? Why are you leading these men all around you who are on the streets today? Why are you not doing your job if you are so in love with your job? Second citizen, truly, sir, to wear out their shoes, to get myself into more work. Why? Because I want these people whom I am with right now. He was actually, there was a lot of, there was a mob there, and this first and the second citizen, they were actually heading that mob. So he's saying that I'm taking these people somewhere so that they can walk more. And what will happen if they walk more, that is WLK walk, if they walk more, their shoes will be rugged, and that will be business for me. Should I? This is an example of, like, the other day I was just driving through the roads, and I saw there was this ad where a doctor was prescribing a vegetable oil or something like that. And then I thought, the normal thing that comes to your mind is that now they are telling us, the doctors are telling us that you can have this vegetable oil, and after that, when you have cholesterol, you have to go and visit the doctors only. So it is like a cycle. So here also he's saying that I am taking these men for a walk so that these shoes, their shoes get rugged, and then I get more business. I get to mend those shoes. But indeed, sir, we make holiday to see Caesar and to rejoice in his triumph. So then he is saying, but indeed, sir, we make holiday to see Caesar. But now he is actually saying that I am here because this is like a holiday to us, because we are here to see Caesar and to rejoice in his triumph and to rejoice that he is victorious. Marulus, wherefore rejoice? What conquests bring he home? But why are you rejoicing? What is he bringing home? What is his victory bringing home? How are you people benefiting from this victory? This is what Merulus is asking them. What tributaries follow him to Rome? To grace in captive bonds his chariot wheels. So he's saying, what tributaries follow him to Rome? That is, tributaries means taxes. So previously it was that when you were like in war with say a king or a noble, and you win, so you will get some money from the person who was defeated. You get land, you usurp the land, you get gold or money. So you bring something to your home country. But here it was different. Here Julius Caesar was actually defending his own country against these people who were actually, they were not good rulers. So he's not bringing in any wealth, any materialistic wealth as such, but he's bringing in a lot of uh, you know I would say a respect, a lot of respect, and a future, a good future for Rome. That was what he was bringing in. To grace in captive bonds his chariot wheels, that is, our prisoners. Previously this also used to happen in Egypt or in mostly most countries. If there was a war, what they used to do is they used to tie the slave, they used to make the people who were defeated, the army who were defeated, they used to tie those soldiers to the chariots wheels, and they used to bring them to the home country to show them that, see, how brave we are and how victorious we have been. We have actually made them our slaves. So this used to happen. This is how humanity has evolved in the years. Now we are talking about the early centuries, when the ancient times, when humanitarian activities were very rare. Even today we have prisoners of wars. It is the same thing like that. So he's saying, Merulus is saying, to grace in captive bonds his chariot wheels. Are his chariot wheels tied to the captive, the slaves that he's bringing from there? You blocks, you stones, you worse than senseless things. Now he's telling them, you are blocks. Blocks means you are, your hearts are made up of stones. You cruel men of Rome, knew you not Pompey? Now Merulus is a very, these people, the people who are opposing Julius Caesar, they were very loyal to Pompey and his sons. So he's saying that, didn't you know Pompey? Many a time and oft have you climbed up to walls and battlements, to tower and windows, yea, to chimney tops. That is, there have been so many instances when Pompey has been victorious after a war. He had fought for Rome, and when he returned from the wars, you people used to uh, climb up walls and battlements. Walls, walls are walls, and battlements are walls of castles. Hmm? Walls of castles, or roofs of castles, to towers and windows. You used to climb up to the towers and to the windows in order to have a glance of the victorious Pompey. Yea, to chimney tops, your infants in your arms, with your children in your arms, and there have sat a live long day, and you had sat there for a long day, or for a whole day, in order to get a glance, in order to get a view of the victorious Pompey when he was the ruler of this place. With patient expectations, to see great Pompey pass the streets of Rome. Now he is talking about the celebrations that used to be when Pompey used to return after the victories. Have you not made an universal shout that Tiber trembled underneath her banks? That is, have you not shouted? Have you not shouted, yelled at, out of rejoice, out of happiness when Pompey used to come after his victories? Did you not? And these shouts were so severe, these shouts were so loud, that it used to tremble the banks of the Tiber. Tiber is the river that passes through Rome. So that Tiber trembled underneath her banks. Now here Tiber is, of course, it's a noun, and T is capital, and it is called her here. That means Tiber is also personified. To hear the replication of your sounds, and it is to echo. When you shout and there is an echo, a lot of people shout together. So when Pompey used to come back after his victories, and people used to shout, they used to rejoice, and the sounds used to be so loud that even the banks of Pompeii used to tremble, and it used to echo. To hear the replication of your sounds made in her concave shores. Again, her is Tiber. Again, it is personified. That is her, made in her concave shores. That is, her concave shores were trembling, they were echoing with the sounds you made. And do you now put on your best attire? And do you now cull out a holiday? And you are the same people who today you have come here with your best attires, you have got ready, you are wearing good clothes, and you have come here in order to celebrate the man who has killed and defeated Pompey and his sons. So you are hypocrites. That is, you used to support somebody, and now when that person is dead and you have a new hero, you are now celebrating him, and you have forgotten what Pompey has done for you and Rome. And do you not now strew flowers in his way that comes in triumph over Pompey's blood? And now you are standing here in order to throw flowers on his way. When somebody comes from somewhere victorious, we throw flowers at him. That is our way of welcoming that person and showing that person our reverence, our respect. So you are strewing flowers on the ways of that person who has actually killed Pompey, whom you used to support and love so much previously. That is the way of the world, isn't it? A person goes and a new person comes, and then you forget what the old person had done for you, and you actually celebrate the new one. This is how the world is actually going, in all the pyramids, in all the sections of life, be it for animals, be it for plants, be it for human beings. Once a person is old and once a person is powerless and he is gone, you don't remember him anymore. Whom you remember? The person who is your present and who can be your future. That is how we work. Be gone. Now he is telling them, be gone, go away from here, run to your houses, fall upon your knees, pray to the gods to intermit the plague that needs must light on this ingratitude. He's saying, run to your houses. Now go back to your houses, run to your houses, and wherever you have your deities, whoever god you pray to, go and kneel down in front of him and ask for gratitude, ask for ask him to intermit the plague, that is delay the catastrophe. Ask him to excuse your hypocrisy and delay the plague here means catastrophe. People at that time, they believe that if you are doing something wrong, then you will be the catastrophe is going to strike on you, and the D-Day, when everything is going to finish because of the wrongdoings of people. That need must light on his ingratitude. That needs must light on this ingratitude. That is because it is inevitable. It cannot be, the catastrophe cannot be avoided because of all the wrong things that you people are doing. The bane, there is a word called a bane, there is a word called a boon. A boon is what? When you are doing something good and you think that karma is going to come back and you will get good. That is boon. And then we have bane, B-A-N-E. Bane means the opposite of boon, when you're doing something wrong and catastrophe is going to strike on you. So here Marullus is saying that go and ask for forgiveness from your gods, so that this catastrophe is delayed, because whatever you people are doing is so wrong that catastrophe or the D-Day is going to strike very soon. दुनिया खत्म हो जाएगी, इतना पाप कर लिया है तुम लोगों ने, इतना पाप चल रहा है दुनिया में, अब दुनिया खत्म हो जाएगी, कोई नहीं रोक सकता. That kind of a thing. Now Flavius is saying, go, go, good countrymen, and for this fault assemble all the poor men of your sort, draw them to Tiber banks, and weep your tears into the channel, till the lowest stream do kiss the most exalted shores of all. Okay? He's saying, go, go, good countrymen. That is, if Flavius is asking them, then you also go and take the people who are supporting you, you in welcoming Caesar, in loving Caesar back. Just you people should go away from here, and you should assemble where? Draw them to the Tiber banks. Go to the banks of river Tiber and weep your tears and cry so much, so that the water of the lowest channels, that is the water in the lowest of the streams that are connecting Tiber, shall be filled, and do kiss the most exalted shores of all. And they kiss, you cry so much that your tears are in such proportion that even the rivers are filled with your tears, and they reach to their maximum water level. Exeunt citizens. Now the citizens, they go away from the scene. See whether their basest metal be not moved. They vanish tongue-tied in their guiltiness. Go you down that way towards the Capitol. This way will I disrobe the image. So see whether their basest metals be not moved. That is, basest metals here means the spirits, the humble spirits are moved, not affected, and they vanish tongue-tied in their guiltiness. Now what they think is that because these people, because Marullus and Flavius, they have just now they have manipulated these people. They are thinking that they have manipulated these people, that is why they did not say a word, and now they are tongue tied, and their souls have been reawakened. They have understood that they have been wrong, so they have gone back. That is what they are thinking. But let's see what happens. Go you down that way towards the Capitol. Capitol here is the temple of Jupiter on the Capitoline hill. The people they thought, these two people, Flavius and Marullus, they are thinking that these people are going to the temple of Jupiter. The temple of Jupiter is where? In the Capitoline hill, which is also called the Capitol. So they are thinking that these people are going to the temple in order to ask for forgiveness from Jupiter. Go you this way will I disrobe the images. Now he's saying that, and what I am supposed to do now, I'll tear away, I'll disrobe means he'll tear away all the celebratory decorations that have been made on the streets. So he starts just tearing away all the celebratory decorations on the street. If you do find them decked with ceremonies, and he's asking the others also who are with him that if you find any decorations for the ceremonies, just tear them away. Now Merulus, may we do so. You know it is the feast of Lupercal. Now let me tell you what the feast of Lupercal is. 15th of February is the feast day to honor Lord Lupercus, who is a protector of flocks and herds. You know, in Roman mythology, the planets on the or the stars, each one they reflect some god or the other, and that god is again associated with some natural aspect, like the god of water, the god of love, the god of the moon. The moon is the god of tides. Now Venus is the goddess of love, Jupiter is the god of war, and now we have 15th of February is the feast of Lupercal. Lupercus is a protector of flocks and herds. Flocks and herds, you understand, the cattle. So Marulus is saying, should we do so? Because these decorations are also for feast of Lupercal. Flavius, it is no matter. Let no images be hung with Caesar's trophies. Which no matter what, we should not keep anything that reminds people of Caesar's trophies. Here, trophies means Caesar's uh, statues or Caesar's anything that reminds people of his looks, his statues or his. They were not pictures, paintings and stuff like that. I'll about and drive away the vulgar from the streets. So do you too, where you perceive them thick. Which is now what I will do, I will roam about in the on the streets of Rome. Again, we have a pun. Roam about in the streets of Rome. One Rome is ROAM, Rome. Roam about is wander, and in the streets of Rome, ROME. So he wants to roam about in the streets of Rome in order to shoo away any crowd that has gathered in order to welcome Caesar. Where you perceive them thick means where you think that there are a lot of people together. Them thick, there is a huge crowd. A lot of people are sticking together. That is what they are saying thick. These growing feathers plucked from Caesar's wings will make him fly an ordinary pitch. So he's saying these growing feathers, the mob or the people who are actually supporting him. See, in a democracy, the people who support you are the most important trophies or the most important achievements that you have. Each and every person is an achievement because they are going to vote for you. So he is saying here, what Flavius is saying, these growing feathers means the people who are supporting Caesar, plucked from Caesar's wings. They are like pulling the feathers from Caesar's wings. Like here Caesar is compared to a falcon. Falcon is a prey bird. So the a falcon, it is a very, it is said to be a very strong and a very intelligent bird, the falcon. So what he is saying that, and a falcon, it flies very high. So what Flavius is saying, if we can disperse the crowd, then it is like plucking feathers from a falcon's body. That is plucking away his strength. A falcon's, if he's a high flyer, then what is his strength? His strength are his feathers. So if you pluck the feathers, you are making that falcon weak. Just like that, if you are dispersing the supporters of Caesar, you are actually making him weaker. Who else would soar above the view of men and keep us all in servile fearfulness? That is now what will happen. If you pluck away the feathers, it will not be able to fly very high. In the same manners, Caesar will not be able to charge people very much because his strength will be gone. And here he's saying, keep us all in servile fearfulness, because they think that when Caesar is back, what will happen is he will become the lord, he will become the ruler of that place, and he will take all these people who is the supporters of Pompey, he will take all of them like as his slaves or as his inferiors. So that is the fright that these people have. So they want Caesar to be weakened. And how will Caesar be weakened? By taking away the people who are supporting him. So we have come to the end of Act 1, Scene 1. I hope you people have understood the scene, and you people have understood, even if you did not know the historical and the political background of Rome. Now you know when and how this scene has taken place, and you can now imagine also the how the scene of the drama that was being set up at that time. So that's that. If you have any problems, I told you how to reach me. If not, best of luck with reading the first Act 1, Scene 1. What I would advise you is that the moment you watch this video, you take your textbook with you. Okay, you take your textbook with you and you pause and you read the lines, and then you hear or you listen to what I just said. So in that, and you take notes also. Then in that manner you will be able to understand the whole text. About the puns, about the oxymoron, about the alliterations, about the metaphors, we need to make some more classes about that. Let's see what we can do. Okay, then the next class, the next video for the 9th standard ICSE or the 10th also, if you want to just revise your previous what you have read in your 9th standard, the next one will be a poetry. Let me see which one I'll cover. I haven't decided as of yet. And this week my video has actually come a bit late because I have been under the weather. I haven't been very well because of the heat. But from the next week, I'll try to post at least 2 videos a week for 9, 10 and 2 videos a week for 11 and 12. In that manner, we'll be able to cover the whole syllabus, and we'll have some time for some notes and some marathons, question and answers. Okay, now I will take for the people who have already subscribed. Please, the people who haven't, please subscribe, because once you subscribe, I'll have a poll, and in that poll, you people can tell me whether I should make some videos on the grammar section of your syllabus and also on the figures of speech, the parts of speech, the figures of speech, because that is really, really important for all these 4 years. Okay then, bye bye, best of luck.